So race last night at Chesterfield, another great meeting. It's getting really good up there every Saturday at about 6. So just want to go through with what I do in between races in terms of prepping my car ready for the next meeting. I don't really prep it any different whether it's a club or a national meeting. I like to do this. This is a hobby, and I actually enjoy the car prep, which some people may find a bit weird, but if you know me, I'm a weird person. So this is about really getting the car so you know when you put it down next time that it's as perfect as it can be. Maybe you do a setup change, or you've learned something and you want to put it down, and so you've changed it through the last meet. You've ended up with it at a place where you're happy with it, or you feel it's going a bit quicker. And so yeah, you can have a bit of fun. This obviously is my Eclipse 2 from Schumacher. Been running it for about 6-8 weeks now. Really happy with it. Seem to be a bit quicker, more consistent with it. It's really robust. So for the average Joes like myself, who tend to crash a little bit more, certainly it's able to withstand a bit more of an impact, and it sort of doesn't go out of tweak so easily. So you know, even if you do have a crash and say your first or second lap, you've got a pretty consistent car for the rest of your 8-minute runs. But yeah, so this is my interpretation of what I do in terms of car prep. Right, so here we go. Let's get it all stripped down as much as I want to get it stripped down, and I'll probably pause if there's anything that I feel might be of interest to people, or something I think is a good thing to do. Otherwise it'll probably be lots of fast forwarding through this as we go along. Right. Little note about that, I've just took the pinion off, and just means you can really spin the axle to see if it's nice and free. I've got the sort of, I'm not sure what the part number is for these, but they were the sort of pro bearings. They were quite expensive, but they are really nice. Let's just say they last as long as I'd like them to, but I'd highly recommend those if you're a bit obsessed about getting them nice and free. So that's most of the back end taken apart. So as you've seen, I've just been cleaning it, getting rid of all the dust and stuff off them, and giving it a sort of visual inspection as I've been going along, making sure everything's as good as it can be. Nothing's loose, nothing's cracked on those. The pod, although the pod is super strong and is certainly less likely to go out of tweak than other pods on the market, I still like to take it off. It doesn't take long just to take it off, and what you'll see me do is I'll just loosen off all the screws and then retighten them. On that, I'll do the front end of the car after I've got this bit sorted out. At the same time as I'm cleaning the kingpins and the hubs on those, I'll clean the damper tubes as well, just so I'm not getting my hands all dirty at the same time. So yeah, let's carry on doing the rebuild now. The top plate here, what I'm looking for here is how much I've had to use the screw there to balance the car. Now they're pretty even actually there, so I'm going to leave it as it is. Obviously, if I've gone through the night and I've had to maybe wind one down significantly more than the other, it's maybe a suggestion that something's not quite right, but they look pretty good there. So I'll just refit it as it is. Obviously you could just wind them out and then wind down again, but because they're nice and even, we'll keep that, but I will double check it when we start doing the setup elements of this. Just a quick note about the pivot, tighten the pivot point. It does say in the manual to not tighten that until the rest of the car's on. The side links should be nice and loose, or well, not loose, free, I think the best description is on there. And so if you tighten that up before you've set these up, it can cause it not to be as free as it could be. So yeah, the one little tool, I don't know if you can see, it's got a little ball on the end of it. And probably can't see it there. Anyway, quite useful at getting angles. Otherwise, you'd have to take this to get it direct. You'd have to take this part of the pod off. But you can just, if you manage just to get it so that's held in place, and then you can use a 3mm driver on the back. That's how I do it. Those side links are still nice and loose there. So if you do feel that one of the links is tight, or both of them are tight, they should, be quite free there to let the car move freely. Then there's something probably wrong with it. That probably applies to most a GT12 car or any 12th car really. Something probably not quite right with that. It's going to cause it to bind and not behave as consistently as you might like. Right, let's carry on with rebuilding it. So just cleaning the lube off the damper tubes and the kingpins and the hubs, so it's nice and fresh, and it's all going to work nicely. Sometimes if you do setup changes, obviously you're probably going to be taking a little bit off those. The dampers, they feel pretty good actually, and this is probably when I'll get a bit OCD-ish about it really, but the car's apart, so we're able to do it. One of the really nice things about this car is these hubs. Other cars tends to be a weak point again. Average Joe crashes more, and hubs are an issue. So having these really nice hubs again gives the car a lot more durability. The only issue is when you first build it up, it can be quite sort of notchy or gritty, grindy. It's quite easy to obviously polish the kingpin, but the internal of the hub is more difficult. What I did was to mount the kingpin on a long, I think it was a grub screw or a screw that I cut the head off, and then put that in a Dremel. I put amounts of Autosol or any other sort of polishing compound would work, and then actually put the kingpin inside and just sort of use that to polish the internals out, and then I repolished the kingpins, and that's worked really well. I think you can just carry on obviously polishing the kingpins, but you might find that the internals of these are still a bit notchy. There's probably other ways. You don't want to do it too much, because then you'll start to get play in the front. So yeah, let's carry on cleaning. Oh, the spray. This is something I use in my business and it works, and I get it free, so this is what I use. Nothing fancy. So I'm just going to lube up the damper tubes and the kingpins using Core RC silicone oil. We've got 12,000 CST on the sides and on the kingpins, and I'm going to use 40,000 CST on the centre damper. I'm going to do that, but I'm not actually going to fit the damper tubes back on the car. I'll get all the ride height done and everything, and get the car balanced, and then the last thing I'll do is just put those on. That's the way I like to do a 12 car. Just find it slightly more accurate because the damper tubes aren't sort of neutralising some of the tweaks or little imbalances. So it's a bit more precise. Other people, I mean, somebody I race with who's significantly quicker than me always likes to put his damper tubes on, but I think as long as you do it always the same, you should get good results. It's when you start chopping and changing maybe that you might find it, but that's how I do it. So these I'm going to coat, but I won't attach them to the car. So that's the car all cleaned and re-lubed. The next step will be working out what tyres I'm going to use next time. The tyres that I've ran, I'm going to sort out in sizes. The only thing that I'll probably look at is the body shell. This is just a club one. It's getting a bit tired, but a little bit of shoe goo here and there probably just make the shell last a little bit longer, save a few pennies. This is the Kettler ultralight shells. As you can see, it's probably had 7-8 meetings. So yeah, I mean, I could buy the standard weight one and it would last longer, but I want to have the lightest shell, so I just put a little bit of scrimp tape with shoe goo, as a lot of us do. That helps it last a little bit longer. And again, just if you can just, like that crack there, I can just shoe goo that and that'll last a bit longer. But eventually they will die, and we have to order some new ones. But it's a sort of consumable, really. Tyres using contact T35s all round. Seem to work everywhere, which is really nice. That you can go, and whether it's ETS or Prima Felt or Lindau or the carpets that Chesterfield and Tamworth are using now, it suits the car, and so it basically takes out one of the decisions of what one of the setup changes to do. A lot of the cars I've driven previously, you maybe took at least 2 foams with you, sometimes more, to see which is the quickest tyre. Whereas the contact T35s, they're just, with this car, they work really well everywhere, and a lot of the time it's just a little bit of soak time difference, or how much you're putting on the front tyre difference. That's the tuning with the tyres. These are pretty big. I think they're probably about, let's have a look, I think they were 42.8 before I put them on last night. So 42.4, and the fronts have gone down from 41.8 to 41.4, so that was a bit more. That's the only thing with the outside, it does wear a little bit more, so that's why I'll get all the tyres together and we'll try and make up some sets. But always the outside tyre is always, the front tyre is always going to wear a bit more, so that's sometimes the issue. But yeah, so really pleased with having the contacts as my tyre now, because it just saves messing around with something else. There's so many other things you can do to a 12 car to tune it. I'm not going to go too much about setup with this time, but I think I'm going to stop this section of the video now, because I need a coffee and need a break from it, and there's lots of sport on today, so I'm going to sit and watch that for a little bit. But when I come back, getting the tyres on, doing the ride height and changes, get it nicely balanced, so when I'm ready to go next time, I'll go. Maybe another time talk about the different setup things you can do with the springs, the camber, caster, and the oils, and the way that the Eclipse 2 has different post positions to create different handling characteristics as well. It has got a very wide setup window, and I suppose which makes it nice, but So you can try lots of different things. With always the same car with a different driver, they're going to have a completely different sort of setup sometimes, depending on how sensitive they want the car to steer. For example, I'm running black springs, but I know people that are running sort of 2 steps harder on the side springs, which is quite, for me, I found silver springs were a little bit feisty. So it just shows you it's not always the same for everybody. And if you look at the cars, they look very, very similar. It just obviously the way that people put their steering input and throttle input is different. The other good thing about the Eclipse 2 is having the option of having a short or long pivot. This is set up in long pivot. I think kit's short. Short pivot makes the car a little bit more agile, but slightly harder to drive. The long pivot gives you a little bit more rear traction, a little bit easier to drive, and that's for UK clubs. Unless you're on a carpet, really high grip carpet, or you've got a really twisty track, I think for me the long pivot works really well. Yeah, so I hope I've not bored you too much with that, and even if sometimes with these videos, even if you see one thing that's useful and it helps you go a bit quicker, then that's great. Right, I'm gonna get coffee.